Turkey's finance minister says his country wants to take its relations with the European Union to a new phase. Speaking at a news conference with his French counterpart Bruno Le Maire in Paris on Monday, Berat Albayrak said recent US sanctions against Turkey will not only harm the global financial system, but also puts regional security and stability at risk. Earlier this month, the US imposed sanctions on 2 Turkish ministers, as well as doubled tariffs on Turkish steel over the detention of American pastor Andrew Brunson, who's facing terror charges. The US measures have sent the lira plummeting to record lows. So far this year, it has lost up to 40% of its value against the US dollar.
When looking at this economic period, it points to reaching a new phase for political relations between the EU and Turkey. We're also acting very openly together against a country's small-minded and unilateral decisions, and this would benefit all countries around the world. The economic volume between Turkey and France was targeted at $16 billion. Today, we talked increasing that to $23 billion.
Well, let's get more on this now from TRT World's editor-at-large, Craig Copetas, who joins us from Paris. Great to have you as always, Craig. So we heard there's some very warm words from the Turkish finance minister to his French counterpart. And we've seen this kind of trend in recent times where Donald Trump's attempts to punish Turkey has inadvertently brought Turkey closer to the EU. I'm wondering, how genuine do you think this détente is between Turkey and the EU?
Well, I think that the French and the Germans and the Turks today started to pull back the curtain on the pious deceit of Trump's trade war. What's going on here is quite significant. France, Turkey, and Germany, the German finance minister will be here tomorrow to discuss the same issues, are forging an intramural NATO alliance to combat the extraterritorial application of U.S. law, and perhaps more important, figure out a method to demilitarize President Trump's increasing weaponization of the U.S. dollar and announcing sanctions against countries and individuals whenever he doesn't like what's going on. The French have had enough of this, the Turks have certainly had enough of this, and so have the Germans and many other global leaders. I think this is a new beginning.
And to your point about forging new alliances, there was this piece in CNBC today that pointed out that roughly 1/10 of the world's countries are now facing what it described as economic warfare, which is exactly the term that President Recep Tayyip Erdogan used to describe America's attacks on his country. I mean, how much of a concern is this for the US then, if you have a growing alliance of countries not only in developing or emerging economies, but also in Western economies, I guess, forging together to create perhaps a parallel financial system that will exclude the US? Is this a real threat for the American economy?
No, the dollar is the global currency. The dollar has strength. No other currency is going to replace it. What this new alliance shows is that President Trump's America has turned its back on the international order as we've seen it here. Foreign businesses and foreign countries are getting fed up with Donald Trump, not with America, but with Donald Trump and the way he's operating. One of the big differences we've seen today is there's an institutional response by 3 countries to the United States. And I'm quite struck by the fact that you're not seeing this coming out of foreign ministers or defense ministers from NATO countries, but you're hearing this from the finance ministers, because they've finally woken up to the notion that this is a war in which guns and ammo are being replaced with dollars and sanctions. And when you look at the situation very hard, Turkey needs to do business in the region, as does Europe. So they're going to have to put more pressure on Trump, and we're going to have to see what happens next year.
Okay, always interesting to get your thoughts. Craig Copetas, thank you again.